Before I begin, I want to preface what I'm going to speak on. I want to begin by saying that before you can understand anything, you have to bring some knowledge to the table. And what I mean by that is you're not going to understand subtraction unless you first understand addition. And with that, I'm going to begin. Monotheistic Buddhism is from Hermetic philosophy. Its purpose is to repair religions that have become fragmented teachings of Thoth, more commonly known as Hermes Trismegistus. Monotheistic Buddhism is spirituality and can be used to understand all religions worthy of the name or worthy to be called religion. For some religions are simply for-profit enterprises. To understand what I'm about to say, you must bring some spiritual knowledge to the table. I was raised in a church. A lot of the things I was taught were questionable and illogical, or at least I didn't understand what was being taught. And I wondered if the people teaching it understood what they were trying to teach. Nothing I was taught about God made sense. Example, God loved me, was a forgiving God, and yet would sentence me to unforgiving, eternal damnation, and hell. But if I repented before I died, I could go to heaven. To me, that seems like something that they put in there for people who were thieves, murderers, and liars, and it just didn't make sense. You can sin your whole life and then say, oh God, get on your knee, oh God, please forgive me, and then you're going to heaven. That's interesting. However, this type of nonsense creates atheists and agnostics. An agnostic is a person when asked if God exists will answer, I don't know. I was raised, like a lot of people, to believe in the Bible and God. So for me, I figured I could straighten out all the nonsense, get rid of all these different religions by simply reading the Bible logically and explaining the difference of opinions that people had about God and religion. So I started with Genesis. Took notes, took notes, and when I reread my notes, none of what I said, or I should say none of what I've written, made any sense to me. For instance, and let me ask you a question. Did this puzzle you as well? I was taught that Adam and Eve were the first people on the planet. Okay, I can go with that. Then I was told Adam and Eve had Cain and Abel. Cain slew Abel. Okay. But then I was told Cain had children. Now the question is, if there was only Adam and Eve, where was the woman? Where was she at? But like a lot of people, I just ignored that and I kept on reading. But anything illogical always bothers me and it never goes away. So anyway, I spent years debating the existence of God like hundreds of people. Sick of the nonsense until I had to admit that I had no proof that God existed and equally no proof that God didn't exist. So I had no logical choice but to become an agnostic and admit what I could not prove. One thing I couldn't do was become an atheist, because if I become an atheist, then I'm saying God does not exist, and I have no proof of that as well. And I refused to lie to myself. So there was only one alternative. And that alternative was to search for truth. I couldn't search for God because I didn't know what God looked like. It's not like I met him. And if I were to meet God, then hey, how would I know he's God? Now he's got to prove to me he's God. The only thing I was left to do was search for truth, because I wasn't going to lie to myself. And in doing so, I decided that I came to the conclusion that I could only acknowledge the things that I could prove through my five senses. I could debate all day. I wasn't going to prove anything. And neither was blind faith. That wasn't going to prove anything. However, I promised myself this. If it came down to a life or death situation, I'm gonna get on my knees and pray to God to live. I mean, why take a chance that I'm wrong? You know, the funny thing is some people will say they found God in their hour of need. The truth is God acknowledged them in their hour of need. Because like I said, God is not someone that you can find. God has to acknowledge you. And for sure, God is not some muscular white guy riding around on a cloud. What God is infinite living mind. And we exist in the mind of God. But we're going to get back to that later. If you believe God is logical, if you believe God is illogical, I should say, you may as well stop here. Nothing will add up for you beyond this point. And the thing that I want to discuss first and foremost is that you have to have the ability to understand truth, or should I say, you have to have a desire to understand truth. Because truth is immortal, meaning it does not change. Secondly, truth can be built upon, meaning it is a solid foundation from which to grow spiritually and intellectually. Now, I want you to hold on to this because truth to the mind is like food to the body. Truth to the mind is like food to the body if your goal is spiritual evolution. And a great example of truth and the nature of God is mathematics. Why do I say mathematics? Because 1 plus 1 is 2 in any language. It does not change. No matter where you are or what language you speak, the results will be the same. Truth, therefore, can be built upon like math. For example, from a knowledge of addition comes subtraction. From a knowledge of addition and subtraction comes multiplication and division, and so on and so on and so on. How is math like the nature of God? Math is a concept that can only be understood through truth. And what I mean, and an example of that, we contemplated the distance to the moon using the mathematics of geometry. Sitting here on Earth, we knew the distance to the moon by using geometry. God is also a concept. The more you understand the concept, the more you transcend time and space and become immortal. However, your concept has got to be based on facts. It's got to be based on truth. Therefore, you can build on it. Truth is immortal. It doesn't change. That's why it is so important to your mind. You cannot reach immortality feeding yourself what? Lies. It doesn't make sense. So you have to have truth. Once again, truth to the mind is like food to the body if you seek immortality. Now I want to go into something else. You know what? I have on a shirt, tie, and suit and everything. And up underneath this, I don't have on any pants and underwear. Okay, now that I have your attention again. The nature of all living things is to live. But for human beings, a requirement to live is love. So we have to love each other first before we can even begin talk about the truth. Truth is our roadmap. Love is the paper the map is written on. Intelligence is the ability to recognize truth and read the map. Wisdom is the compilation of truth. As you reach different levels of wisdom, you can add new understanding to the nature of God. Same as with math. The nature of God is love and truth. The only boundaries to truth are the fences we build in our minds. And when we build those fences, we close our minds to intelligence and intellectual free will. There's no disagreement between science and spirituality. Spirituality is science unknown. Spirituality is science unknown. Do not get it twisted. I am not talking about Scientology. Monotheistic Buddhism is not a religion. It can be used to understand religions such as Christianity, Islam, and Buddhism. Now, when God said, and for instance, when God said, let there be light, there was the sun, of course. There's no disagreement between science and spirituality. When God created the sun, did night and day become instantaneously? No. For science teachers, it took billions of years for the sun to form. Now let me ask you a question. How long is 1,000,000 years to God who existed before time and space existed? Think about it. Another thing that the Bible teaches. Does man have dominion over the earth? Yes, we do. Can we control the forces of nature? Not at the present level of our spiritual evolution, we can't. My search for truth has led me back to the Bible with better understanding. Because as I mentioned before, I studied the Bible, none of it made sense to me. I closed the Bible, and I never thought that I would open the Bible again because it was just too confusing and it was ridiculous. Well, the Bible wasn't ridiculous. I didn't have the ability to understand the Bible. Let me give you one of the disagreements that people use when they come to talk about God. I have a fish tank. My fish have no worries. I provide them with everything they need. Light, food, warmth, a clean environment, everything they need to survive. Fish of different species will kill each other, as well as fish of the same species. They'll kill each other. But fish are instinctive. They can't help it. And there's nothing I can do to stop them from doing it. There's nothing they can do. Although they have no reason to kill each other, I provide all their needs. The same way God provides all of our needs on earth. There's no reward for my fish to kill each other. Neither is there a reward for human beings to kill each other. God has provided us everything we need on earth to survive. All we have to do is share. So when people ask the question, does God care? A better question is, do people care? Do we care? We have been provided with the breath of God. And that breath of God, the spiritual breath of God, is the ability to reason, to think, free will. We have free will. That's why a better question is, does humanity have enough intelligence to care about each other before the earth is unable to sustain human life. We have dominion over the earth. We are making a choice to destroy the earth. That's a choice. There is no devil made me do it. And let me go on to say, the measure of intelligence of any species of humanoid is how bad they allow things to get before they act with reason. And what resources will they have left to work with? What resources will humanity have left to work with if we keep wasting our resources? You tell me. The ability to reason is a gift to man that we have failed to utilize. The ability to reason is a gift to man, is a spiritual gift to man that we have failed to utilize. Now, the desire to reason and to use reason is not a gift. If it were, we would lack free will. We would lack free will if we didn't have choices. The nature of free will is to make mistakes. The nature of reason is to correct mistakes. Correct mistakes. And the question is, how long will we continue down this path of ignorance before we correct the mistakes that we're making? How long? And one of the reasons why we're making these mistakes is because we fragmented philosophy. We fragmented philosophy and turned it into different religions. And then instead of using those religions as a guide, we use those religions to make war, which makes absolutely no sense whatsoever. Religion is supposed to be like numbers, the same principle spoken in different language. In all religions, 1 and 1 should equal 2. In all religions, 2 and 2 should equal 4. If your religion is based on truth, it's indivisible. But when your religion is based on false belief, it becomes fragmented. And nothing fragmented is a solid foundation to build anything on. So let's stop asking the question, does God care? And let's put the question where the question is supposed to be. Do we care? Do we care? Let me ask you a question. And this is going back to whether or not God cares. If you dived into cold water to save a person from drowning, and the next day they jump back into the water, would you save them again? What if they kept doing it every day? We're doing it, we're making it. That's why history is so important. History only repeats itself when you ignore the knowledge that history is presenting us with. And what is the knowledge that history is presenting us with? It's with truth. It's the truth. Now, if you believe Columbus discovered America, cut off the video. You're wasting your time. If you believe Columbus discovered the video, cut off the video. If you believe that Jesus is a white person with a perm, cut off the video. Revelation states Jesus had hair, white hair, the texture and color of lamb's wool. His feet were burnt bronze. Now, if you have a picture of some white guy nailed to the cross with hair down to his shoulders, stop. This isn't for you. See, you're not interested in truth. I mean, if I'm wrong, tell me where I'm wrong. Prove it. I'm not going to stand around and wait for you to prove it because I know you're not going to make any sense. Now, we have free will, and we have free will to use it. The question is, do we have the desire to use it? Do we have the desire to use it? And each of you has got to answer that question to yourself. Let me get one thing straight. I'm not trying, don't believe me. I don't want to be, I'm not your leader. I'm not your spiritual guru or none of that. Because God has given every single person, listen to what I'm saying, the ability to think and reason for yourself. And the simple fact of the matter is, I can't teach you anything. The only person that can teach you anything is you. And you will learn, and we will learn the same thing if the common denominator is truth. If the common denominator isn't truth, everything is all going to be fragmented. It's all going to be a lie. And that's the simple fact of the matter. If you disagree with me, hey, that's okay. Because my job is to lead you to the spiritual waters. Whether you drink or not, it's none of my business. I'm not going to, and I am not supposed to, force you to do anything against your free will. My job is to lead you to the spiritual water, not force you to drink water, take up the water, because actually it's none of my business whether you do or not. My business is my spirituality. You see what I'm saying? My business is my spirituality, not yours. You have free will. God has given us all free will and the ability to use it. Whether you decide to use it or not, it's your business. It has nothing to do with me. Now, and like I was saying, intelligence is like math. It has many different levels. Your ability to recognize the truth is the beginning level. To use your ability to rationalize. Separate nonsense separate lies from the truth. You have that ability. And like I was saying, intelligence has like math has many different levels. You have people at many different levels. You have people that have a knowledge of addition, subtraction, multiplication, division, algebra, geometry, calculus, and it goes on and on and on. But the first thing you have to understand is that 1 and 1 equals 2. And if you disagree with the fact that 1 and 1 equals 2, then we'll waste you. Have a nice day. Now, are we made in God's image? Yes, we're made in God's image. Does this mean that we look like God? No, it doesn't mean we look like God. It means that we have the ability to reason, to add, subtract, multiply. That's what makes us different than animals. And you know the funny thing about it is that I was talking to a guy, and he was talking about nature and talking about how animals do this and animals do that. And I told them a lot of animals lick their private parts to clean themselves. I don't do that. So why would I look to an animal or nature for direction? I am a spirit. We are spiritual beings. We are above nature. We can control nature if we understand, if and when we understand how nature works, we control nature. So why would I look to a chimpanzee for direction? Doesn't even make sense. And then the whole theory of evolution, I'm gonna say, I don't know, but I can't speak for you all, but I didn't evolve from no chimpanzee. I'm gonna tell you that right now. There's no way I evolved from a chimpanzee. And if I evolved from chimpanzees, then the chimpanzees we're looking at in the zoo will look more and more human as the years go on. So if you want to believe in that part of evolution, feel free. But don't put me in that. I didn't come from no primate. So conclude, let me begin by saying this. Truth is food for the body. Truth is food for the mind, as food is necessary for the body to live. And if you want to evolve spiritually, you need truth. Because what is truth? Truth is immortal. It doesn't change. If you're seeking immortality, you can't believe in a lie. Because lies are not immortal. Lies are not cohesive. And when I say cohesive, that means truth can be built upon it. 1 and 1, 2, 2 and 2, 4. It can be built upon it. So before I can even get into an explanation of the Bible, you have to have a willingness and a desire for truth. And one of the things that I want to leave you with a couple of thoughts. Well, not a couple of thoughts, but a couple of facts that are in the Bible. Because if you heard me earlier, I mentioned that God is infinite living mind. And to expand on that, I'm going to say that we live in the mind of God. That's where we live. Have you ever woke up from a dream and it was a nightmare? Did you think it was real? Yeah, you thought it was real. Have you ever had a dream where you had sexual intercourse? Did it seem real? Of course it did. But we're mortal. God is eternal immortality. So when God doesn't dream, but when God meditates or contemplates, that becomes our reality. That becomes our reality. And I'm gonna close with one more thing. Genesis 2:9. There were two trees. There was the tree of life, and there was the tree of knowledge. And what is knowledge? Knowledge is truth. Knowledge is truth. When the serpent, now, the Bible also goes on to say that the serpent in Genesis 3, verse 1, it states, God created, the serpent was subtle. God created the serpent. And that tells us something right there. God made the serpent, and he made it for a reason. And did the serpent lie to Eve? No, the serpent didn't lie to Eve. The serpent didn't lie to Eve at all. Everything the serpent told Eve was true. Adam and Eve were able to recognize the fact that they were what? That they were naked. The serpent was subtle. What's the definition of subtle? The definition of subtle is keen and intelligent and cool and laid back. When Adam and Eve bit the apple, they realized that they were naked. And with knowledge comes free will. With knowledge comes free will. And that's what God meant when he said that you will crawl on your bellies like the beast in the field. But he was saying you have to figure it out. And you will go through trials and tribulations to figure it out. And out of Eden, 4 rivers came out of Eden. Rivers, water in the Bible means spirituality. So spirituality came out of Eden, came out of Eden. People were created. People were created in Genesis 27 and 28. Human beings were created. Adam and Eve represents the yin and the yang theory that Asians have. And when you understand, if you can bring the knowledge of yin and yang to the Bible, then you can understand spirituality and the evolution of humanity, because it adds up. The yin and yang, one represents the tree of life, the other represents the tree of knowledge. And with that, I hope I didn't bore you. And if I did, then you weren't supposed to be here anyway, because you're not searching for truth anyway. And by the way, I'm not naked. I do have on boxers. So till the next time, have a great day.